Hi besties, welcome to Vicky Signature. In today's video, we'll be looking at how to cut this bubu gown that has ashoke and then the collar has ashoke also. That is bubu gown with ashoke neckline. So if this really sounds like what you want to learn, please stay tuned as we're about to start. So this is the fabric I will be using. This is the fabric, and then this is the ashoke. So the ashoke is small, so at the end of the day I discovered that I use up to like 2 strands. So for this particular project, I'm making use of one wrapper. My client I bought 6 years for my client, and then she said she just wants 4, so I'm making use of the remaining 2 years. That is one wrapper. So I went ahead to just fold it just the way you are seeing it. I folded it into 4, and then I mark a line to serve as my starting point. So this tutorial is very simple, and then you can understand it very well. So the only fabric I have, that is what I folded into 4. Then I went ahead to mark from the shoulder to the waistline, shoulder to the hip line. Mine is 25 inches, and then shoulder to the length of the dress. So if your own length of dress is 40, you put the 40 and then add extra allowance. So I have to like zoom the video and down small so that we can see it very well. I have to take it down small so that we can see it very well, because the first one was showing too bold and we can't see the length of the dress. So this is my actual length of the dress. So now why I didn't add allowance here is that the remaining 4 to 5 inches that you are seeing at the down part is going to serve as turning of lining allowance. Now let me explain. So in your own case, after you have marked your actual allowance, you can go ahead to add like 2 inches for folding, because the dress doesn't need lining. But because I'm making it to be very short, that is why this remaining allowance I'll just leave it. Then when I'm turning it with lining, it's just going to go inside. So you just go ahead to mark your actual measurement and put small allowance I used to fold the leg at the end of the day. So that is all. Now for this part, I'll come down by 1.5 inches for the shoulder slope, and then I'll mark my neckline measurement of 3.5 inches. So after marking the 3.5 inches, this is going to be for the back. This is going to be for the back. 3.5 inches for the width, and then for the depth I've been using 1.5 inches because it has a collar and it has to be high neck for the collar to stand. So I'm using 1.5. Then I'll go ahead to connect this part to meet the shoulder slope, just as you can see. So I'm using 1.5 inches for the shoulder slope. So after doing that, next thing I have to do is to come down by my sleeve opening. So the sleeve opening, I'll be using 10 inches for the sleeve opening, and on that 10 inches I'll just mark it inward like this. And then after that, I'll go ahead to start taking my basic measurement. So I divided my hip by 4 and then added 4 inches. So my hip is 40, divided it by 4, I have 14. So anything I have on the waistline, on the hip line, that is what I'll use on all over, because this is a bubu gown. Every side has to be equal. This particular bubu gown, every side has to be equal. So when you are doing that, use your hip measurement or the biggest part of your measurement. Some people's bust is bigger than their hip. So if your bust is 40 and your hip is 36, use your bust. Right now, after dividing it, you add 4 inches, and you can even add more if you want yours to be more bigger. Right now, after that, I'll just connect the line upward to meet the sleeve opening and then curve it. So after curving it, I'll go ahead to add half inch on the shoulder slope, so that when we are joining it, it's going to serve as a sleeve allowance. And then I add half inches on the neckline. Now I'm just going to mark this part very well so that we all can see it. So now for this sleeve, from the neck down to the sleeve length, I have 18 inches. So I want mine to be 18 inches. So that is what I just confirmed now. So at the end of the day, after adding my ashoke, that measurement will be enough for me. So I'll go ahead to cut it out, and after cutting it out, I'll unpin it, then trim the down very well. I'll unpin it, and then after unpinning it, I'll remove one piece to serve as the back, and then work with this one that is for the front. So this one is going to be serving as the front. The one we remove is going to be for the back. So I'm going to redraw the neckline. So for the back, we use 1.5 to 3.5. So for the front neckline, I'll be increasing it, right? So I use 3.5 for the width and also 3.5 for the depth. So, we are maintaining the width, but it is the depth that I'm increasing, because it was initially 1.5 for the back and front we cut together. So after doing that, I'll come down from that part like 4.5 to 5 inches, because if you don't do this opening, there's no way you can be able to put your head in your dress, because this dress doesn't have a zipper. So I came down by 4.5 for the opening at the front, and then I use my scissors to cut it out. So now when we are sewing it together with the ashoke and the neckline, with the lining, everything is going to come out very well. So this is the lining I'll be using, and it is very, very optional. It's not a must you even need lining, right? I'm adding lining because I want mine to be very thick, since it's a short gown. So I cut the lining just the way you are seeing it. Can you see? I cut the line just the way I seeing it. Now the remaining excess that is left on the dress, I'll use it to turn the lining like this. That is what I am explaining. So let's turn it to the back. Let me show you. See where the lining is? So when I fold it now, it's going to join to the lining, and my main dress allowance is going to come out. So this lining is very optional. You can decide not to do it, because the ones I've seen, they don't use lining. I decided to use lining on my own because I want it very thick. Now for this neckline, watch and see how we are going to be doing it. So this is my ashoke. I bring out the two edges together and then trying to locate how we are going to be fixing the neckline. So I discovered that I have to sew it down very well, then we can stitch on it and then design our neckline. So I'll go ahead to join the neckline and then sew it. I'll go ahead to join the ashoke and sew it. So after sewing it, this is what we have. So I didn't sew everything, I just sew and stop at some inches, right? So now we are going to be measuring 16 or 17 inches depending on what you want. So for this particular video, I use 17 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark 17 inches. That is going to be the length of the ashoke we will use. So after marking it, what I'll do is I'll go ahead to cut it out very well, right? So watch the way I do it. Now after cutting it out, this is what we have. We are going to be keeping this particular one aside, and then we'll work with this 17 inches we just cut. So after cutting it out, this is what we have. Now we can now place it on our front piece and then form our neckline design. So go ahead and do yours, but before then you can go ahead and iron your ashoke very well. But one thing I love with ashoke is that you can use your hand to relax it very well, and it is going to serve you. Now this is a front neckline. I'll bring the ashoke and then place it on it like so. So I'm just trying to locate it so that it stays at the midpoint properly, and then after locating it very well, I'll use my pin to secure it and pin it down very well. So after pinning it down, at the edges of this ashoke, I'll be coming up by 3 inches. On the two edge, I'll come up by 3 inches, and then after coming up by 3 inches, I'll go ahead to do to start folding it. Now I'll fold this. Do you see the way I show my hand? I'll go ahead and fold it following the direction of my hand. So once I fold, I'll go ahead to use my pin to secure it very well so that it doesn't shake, and then I also go ahead to fold this part very well. So make sure when you are working with this, you have your pin, because pin will make this work very, very easy for you, so that when you go to your sewing machine, you don't have to be stressing yourself of shifting this, shifting that. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and then sew it together. So can you see I have to fasten it, but I believe you all can see how it is. So you go ahead to sew. As you sew, you'll be removing your pin so that the pin is not going to damage your sewing machine. So you sew it following the direction of your fold till you get to the end. And so guys, after sewing it together, this is what we have. Now what we have to do is to trim out the excess, right? Is to trim out the excess, because it is good you do it like this. If you don't do it like this and you cut everything out before, at the end of the day, you may discover that the neck, maybe the ashoke is shorter or is too long. So it's good you place like this, and then you go ahead and trim your thing later. So let's trim it off together. Can you see? I've trimmed it off. Now our neckline is ready. What we have to do is to cut an interfacing to turn it. So in the case of in my own interfacing, I have a lining that I will be using. So if you don't have a lining, cut a piece of fabric that you use and turn the neckline, right? So I'll be using a lining to turn it. Now I'll go ahead to mark where I'll be sewing. Can you see? I'll sew it with 1/2 inch. Then after sewing it, I'll bring it so that we can see it, right? Now after sewing it, this is what we have. Yeah, this is what we have. I'll go ahead to cut out that piece. I'll go ahead to cut out that piece. That is the excess that is left. I'll go ahead to cut it, and after cutting it, we'll go ahead to turn our dress and see what we have. But before turning it, we'll go ahead to join the edge of the line and the edge of the fabric together. That's, we are turning our cloth already, and then the side I'll join it together so that everything is going to be invisible. And at the end of the day, after sewing it, guys, this is what we have. Can you see? This is what I was demonstrating from the beginning, that this is how the length of the dress is going to be looking like, right? Can you see? I've gone ahead to fold everything. Now let's turn it together. So guys, after turning it, I'm just trying to relax the neckline very well. So at this point, you have to use a very good pressing iron to press it down so that everything is going to relax very well. And then for the back, I've also gone ahead to turn it, and this is how it is looking like, right? It's looking so fine. So next thing we have to do is to join our shoulders together. So we join the shoulders together, right? We're going to be joining the shoulder. So I discovered something that I was not supposed to turn the back neckline, so I went ahead to loosen it before joining the collar. So watch very well. Can you see the back? That is what I am demonstrating. I went ahead to lose it before joining the shoulder. So when you are doing yours, don't turn the back neckline, because you are going to be adding a collar to it. So when you turn it, you have already reduced the measurements you added. Now next for us to do is to fix our collar. For us to do that, you take your tape and measure the circumference of your neckline from the front down to the back, from the front to the other side of the front. And at the end of the day, after measuring it, I have about 13.5 inches, right? So I'll go and pick a piece of paper, write that 13.5 inches so that I'll not forget. Now I'll roll a line so that it will serve as my starting point, right? It will serve as my starting point, both the up and then the side. So next thing we have to do is to divide the 13.5 into 2. So after dividing it 13.5 into 2, I have 6.75. so that is what I am doing. You can also use your chalk to do that. I have 6.75. then I'll put that measurement following the direction of my hand, just the way I'm doing it. You put that 6.75. At that 6.75, you are going to come down by 1 inch. This is going to 1 inch. This is going to serve as a collar length. Come down by 1 inch and connect it together. Then you also come down by 1 inch on this side, and then you connect everything together. So after doing this, you discover that you have taken the round length of your collar. So what we need now is the collar stand, for it to stand and give us that shape that yes, this is a collar. Now what we have to do is, at this part, you're going to go in by 0.75, or you can even go in by 1/2 inch. Yes, you're going to go in by 0.75 and mark there. After marking there, so next thing is for us to do our collar stand slantly like this, right? But now we have to measure everything properly so that everything can be accurate. I'll go ahead to draw a fence line. We will not be using that line, but it's going to serve as a guide. I'll come down by 2.5 inches to serve as the length of the collar stand, and then at that 2.5 inches, I'll go out by 1 inches to 1.5 inches, depending on how wide I want the collar stand to be, right? Can you see? So next thing now is for us to connect it curvely to meet this 0.75 that we went in by from the collar length. I believe we all understand this. So if it is too sharp, you can go ahead to blend this just the way I am blending my own. And then next thing we have to do is, at this other side, we'll come down by 2.5 inches so that we'll connect it together, so that everything is going to be equal, right? Connect it together. Now after connecting it together, we'll go ahead to blend this part very well. You see the way I'm blending it? Yeah, you blend it very so that it will not give a sharp look, it will give a blend look. And if you want it to give a sharp look, you can just leave it like this. So this is how you do your collar. And then at the length of this collar, where we'll attach our collar stand, you're going to go up, come down by half of an inch, and then connect it to the edge there. Just look at the way I'm connecting mine. You go down by half of an inch and then connect it like this. So after doing it like this, the neck is going to relax very well at the back. It's not going to be gaping or standing too much, so it's going to relax very well. And at the end of the day, this is how you do your collar. So next thing, now you go ahead to cut it out. Cut it out very well, following the direction of our mark. Now this is our collar. So this is a cut together collar. If you want it to be cut separate, you can just slash it at that midpoint where I am folding right now. But since we are working with ashoke, we'll do it as a cut together collar, right? We are going to be doing it as a cut together collar. Now next thing we have to do is, we are going to bring a piece of ashoke, then we'll place it on it and cut. Now after cutting, I discovered that I am playing with my client ashoke, so I have to use this other ashoke that I have, and they're almost same. No, can you see it blends so well with it? I was even surprised. So I place it and then mark out, then I trace out the collar again. That used to say this new one that I cut is going to serve as a lining, and then the other one is going to serve as the main neckline. I'll be the main collar. So this is the two I have. They don't have much difference like that. So I'll place the two together and then I'll go ahead to sew it. So I'll be marking where we are going to be sewing. So we are going to be sewing from half inches, right? We'll come down by half inches on our collar length, then following it slantly like this, and then we sew it till the other edge. So make sure that while sewing, you don't tamper with the length of the collar, because if you tamper with that, it's going to either shorten it or increase the length of the neckline. Now we'll go ahead to sew it very well and then trim it out. And after trimming, sewing, trimming, and then notching all the edges, right? Because if you don't notch, if you don't trim, the collar is not going to look sharp. It's going to be rough, right? It's going to be rough at the edges, and the shape of the collar is not going to come out very well. So I'll just go ahead to turn it out very well, and this is what we have after turning. So what you have to do is to go ahead to iron yours. Iron your own very well. Now we have to be fixing it to our neckline. So you're going to be holding the edge like this. Open one side of the edge like this. You sew one side, only one side to the neckline, and then you sew the other side when you are done sewing the first one. So we'll pick one side, place it facing the lining part. Can you see? You're going to be placing it facing the lining part. We'll pin. So you have to be very careful here. After doing this, you're going to place another one facing the lining part. So the one that you want, the part that you want it to be your lining in your collar, that is what you are going to be using, facing the lining, right? You face the lining side. Now after facing it, you're going to be pinning it all around till you get to the edge of the collar. And after pinning it, you go ahead to sew it. And after sewing it, this is what we have. Next thing now is for us to sew the second part of the collar. So for us to do that, we are going to start from the one edge again. You fold it in very well. Can you see? You fold it in. See my hand, oh, see you see the way I do my hand. Let me speak pidgin here. You fold it in very well. You use your pin to secure it. You fold it in again. You use your pin to secure it, right? Use your pin to secure it, and at the end of the day, you just go to your sewing machine and then sew it following the direction of your pin. Oh, ooh la la. After sewing it, this is so stressful, my people. After sewing it, this is what we have. Can you see it looking so pretty? Our dress is, I think, 80 minutes ready, 80% ready. So all we have to do is to fix the sleeve. So for the sleeve, the inspo is, it was fixed directly like that, but me, I don't want mine. I'll go ahead to what, fold it and fix. So I will mark out the sleeve length. So I measured I have about 19 inches, so I'll go ahead to cut 19 inches in two plates, and then I fold it and join. So did you discover that the sleeve, like the ashoke of the sleeve and then that we use on the neckline, they aligns very well? If they align very well and you have washed down to this part, drop a comment on the comment section and tell me that yes, they align very well. Let me know that people are following. Now I've gone ahead to stitch it down very well, and it's looking so fine already. So next thing is for us to sew the side down. So let's turn to the back face. So after turning it, we'll go ahead to sew it with half of an inch. We go ahead to sew it with half of an inch. So you discover that we don't have even a pieces for us to fix a pocket again, but maybe I'll make provisions for that. So when you sew, you reach towards the edge, you're going to stop at 7 inches, so that 7 inches will be used as the slit opening by the side. Then I'll go ahead to sew the other side also. After sewing it, I discovered that I have these pieces, and then I quickly run a pocket that we can be fixing our hand. So I believe we all can cut a pocket, so that's why I didn't stress myself in recording that part. But if you don't know how to cut a pocket, you can still let me know in the comment section, and then in my next video I'll show that. Now after that, I'll go ahead to fold the slit and then sew it down properly. I'll fold the other slit and sew it down properly, right? Now after doing that, that is going to be the end of this tutorial. So if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and see you in my next video. Bye.